speaker is from the National Geographic Society. So get ready for our visions to be awed by the National Geographic images that we know so well. Valerie Craig is our final keynote for day one. She is deputy to the chief scientist and vice president of the operating programs at the National Geographic Society. And in this capacity, she has strategic and operational oversight for a series of flagship programs and projects that are helping push the boundaries of exploration, further our understanding of the world, and collaborate to generate new solutions for a healthy and more sustainable planet. Valerie herself has a strong background in ocean and freshwater conservancy issues, which is why we asked her to join us today to speak to us about the plastics challenge. And it's a bit of a trailer for tomorrow when we're going to be going into that in more detail. So with our final keynote, Valerie Craig, let's begin.
A good story can change the world. Not always a story about something good, but a good story. Told the right way and for the right reasons, its impact can be profound, empowering the people it touches and creating an opportunity for change. We've been telling these kinds of stories for a long time. 130 years ago, National Geographic was founded with the simple notion that understanding our world can help to change it for the better. There's a lot of world left to understand today, but there was even more of it back then. So we gathered up the most advanced tools of the time and gave them to a group of explorers to search the world for that understanding. These explorers were carefully chosen for their bravery and their passionate curiosity. And in their adventures in the years to come, there were many firsts.
The fascinating thing is that so many of the gestures used by the chimps are the same as ours.
Their stories were brought back and shared, and a community was formed around them, connected through their own curiosity and hungry for more.
This sucker exists!
Before there was an internet or Instagram, National Geographic brought them the world and everything in it every month. And in meeting these new people and places, and being moved by their stories, that community started to care. Because when you understand something on that emotional level, you feel compelled to do more than just read or watch. And when a whole community shares that same sense of purpose, amazing things happen. Today we are connected to an unrivaled network of fans and explorers, across more means of communication than our founders could have imagined. We are still invested in bold people and the power of change, and we're putting our money where our mouth is, protecting, educating, inspiring, and empowering a global community to make a difference.
Today I'm on assignment for National Geographic.
Nearly a third of our profits go back into the field, giving grants to new generations of explorers, who in turn tell the stories that make us care and make the discoveries that advance humankind. This is our purpose. There are problems we need to solve, but the story we're all working together to tell is a good one that's about shared purpose and the wonder of possibility. Our compassionate curiosity has taken us all this far, and we believe it is the very thing that will drive us further.
Is everybody energized? Ready for the rest of the afternoon? I just want to acknowledge quickly that it is a way too rare occurrence to be able to follow that incredible panel of women that was just here. So I want to thank them and the organizers for making that happen, because it's really super encouraging. So I have the pleasure to kick off a series of conversations about plastics. And I know what you're thinking. Haven't we been talking about plastics kind of all day today? Yes. And tomorrow, you're going to hear from a pair of incredible innovators who are proving the possibility of the circular economy for plastic. And then you're going to hear from a great panel of experts focused on Canada and how Canada is actually going to achieve its goal of zero plastic waste. But before we get there, I want to set the table for that conversation. I think there's often an assumption with this kind of a group of people that we all know the issue, we fully understand it, we're ready to go. And I don't like to make that assumption because what I've learned this year of talking to a lot of different audiences about this issue is that the big global context is important, and it's important to take a moment to remember why we do the work we do every single day. So after setting the table a little bit, I also want to share our work because it gets beyond the usual players. Because National Geographic is part of a larger ecosystem of civil society, other nonprofits, the media, consumers, people who are coming together to engage on this issue. So to set the global context, we have to start with a map, especially because I represent National Geographic, and maps are the foundation of our science-based storytelling. And this map, you don't even need to try and understand what it's telling you. The bottom line of it is bleak. Today, plastics have been found from the Arctic to the Antarctic, and from the surface to the seafloor. About 40% of the plastics that we're using today, we use just once before they're tossed. And the path from production to use to disposal offers a lot of opportunity for loss into the environment. About 9 million tons of plastic is hitting the ocean every year. And the numbers are just going to get bigger from here. So take a moment to think about how much it really is 9 million tons. So envision that you have in front of you 5 plastic grocery bags full of plastic trash. Look to your right, look to your left. Your neighbors also have 5 bags full of trash. Now extend that chain of people around every coastline of the world. That's 9 million tons, and that's hitting our ocean every year. And when you look at this map, you can start to see why we're seeing it everywhere. We have one global ocean, and its currents can carry trash from coast to coast into the farthest reaches of the planet. But how did we even get into this mess? So in the mid-1800s, the first plastics were created to solve a problem. They were created to replace super expensive rare items, rare materials like ivory. But it was just a few short decades before we were making plastics from petroleum. And that leap in technology opened up a world of possibilities for plastics, revolutionizing medicine, improving food safety, lightening our cars and our planes, and leading to life-saving inventions like helmets and airbags. But by 1950, we were looking at the dawn of the plastic boom, and we were also looking at the start of a very effective marketing campaign to use disposables. This notion that these new plastic items were going to make our lives so much more convenient. We were going to free the modern housewife from the burden of doing chores and doing dishes at home. Since 1950, we've produced 8 billion metric tons of plastic. I told you the numbers are just going to get bigger. And the scary part is really half of that has just been produced in the last 15 years. And we're set to hit 34 billion metric tons by 2050. We're not really going in the right direction here. So we have to start thinking about how do we use fewer plastics? How do we eliminate the most wasteful plastics? But also, how do we rethink the plastics that are really important in our lives? And how are we going to develop the new innovations that are going to help to curb this growth? And importantly, how do we deal with the waste issue before we reach a point where control and cleanup becomes virtually impossible? So one of the reasons why plastic gets out into the environment is because it's lightweight. It allows it to be carried on the wind and in the waves. But it's that same light weight that makes it so desirable. Imagine thousands of glass bottles being transported by truck and by cargo ship. Now imagine that same number of bottles made of plastic. That weight difference is a huge savings in carbon emissions. And in the context of global climate change, it's just part of the accounting now. So I'm not saying that plastic bottles are the solution and we're stuck with them. The point is to say, it's not a simple equation, right? It's a really complicated issue, and we can't just say, let's just go back to the way it used to be. There isn't any going back. We have to look forward. Let's rethink the products we're using. Let's think about how do we deliver goods, maybe without the package, or a better package, or a reusable package. But plastics are ending up today where they don't belong, in the environment and ultimately in the ocean, where they break down into smaller and smaller pieces and are entering our food chain. So we have to prevent plastic from getting to the ocean in the first place. And it's important to really focus on prevention, right? Because if you're in a sinking ship and you spend all of your time and energy bailing, at some point you sink. So you know you have to find the hole and plug it. And the same holds true for plastic pollution. We have to stem the flow of plastics before we focus all of our energy and hundreds of millions of dollars in cleaning it. If we don't stop the flow, we're never going to finish cleaning the ocean. So if we think about the last point of capture is just before plastics hit the ocean, you can then look backwards in that value chain and start to see all the points where interventions are possible to prevent plastic from getting out there in the first place. But there's a whole ecosystem around this supply chain, right? If we leave it up to the plastic supply chain to solve the problem, we may never get there. And National Geographic is part of that bigger ecosystem that I was talking about at the beginning. So last year, we launched our Planet or Plastic initiative. And we really have designed this initiative to leverage all the strengths of our organization, including those of the nonprofit National Geographic Society and the media platforms of National Geographic partners. So this effort spans a number of different areas. We're investing in science to increase our understanding and to accelerate solutions. We use our media platforms to amplify and contextualize these really big, meaty issues. And we're trying to leverage all of our strengths, including convening power, to bring together the decision makers and the innovators, to get beyond conversation, to start getting to action and decisions for change. Leading with science means that the society is leaning in a number of areas. I'm only going to talk about a couple of these. So earlier this year, we kicked off our Sea to Source expeditions, starting in the Ganges in India. And we have an almost all-female team out on the river right now, and more than half of that team is from India and Bangladesh. We're really proud of that. And that team is led by Dr. Heather Caldaway and Dr. Jenna Jambeck. And what we're trying to do is understand at the very beginning how much, what, and where does plastic move in a watershed. Because if you start to understand that level of detail, you can know where to invest your really limited infrastructure dollars, and you can start to understand what are the options for the solutions. What kinds of issues are you actually solving for? Context matters. The same pollution, the same plastic waste that you see in India isn't necessarily going to look like it does in Vietnam, right? You have to understand the place. So that's one area of science for us, but we're rounding that out also with our grants. We've been giving grants for 130 years, and it's been the basis of our storytelling. Our grants go to scientists, to conservationists, to storytellers, to educators and technologists to try and attack this problem from all angles. And earlier this year, we launched our Ocean Plastic Innovation Challenge, where we're investing in people. We're trying to bring in people from all kinds of backgrounds to apply their knowledge to this hairy problem. For this innovation challenge, we're focused on materials design, and we're focused on circular economy. And we announced our finalists a couple of months ago. One of our materials design finalists is from Canada, and you should definitely check them out at nationalgeographic.org. But we'll be announcing finalists just next month, so watch that space. But storytelling. This is what National Geographic is known for. Even though we've been giving grants forever, at the end of the day, people engage with us through our media. We know that these incredibly arresting images matter, right? This now iconic image of the iceberg plastic bag cuts through the noise and immediately tells a story about the scale of the problem. But you have to get beyond just the image. It's important to pull people in, but then we have to contextualize the issue. These are super complicated challenges. So how can we use science and facts and tell stories in a way that's not going to be alarmist? And our solution focus in our stories ensures that our audiences are filled with hope, right? That they're coming to us for increased awareness and understanding, but they're also coming to us for hope, to know that they can engage and find ways to be part of the solution. And the stories are resonating. Since we started this last year, we've had over 1.3 billion views of our content. That's not 1.3 billion people, but it's even better than that, because it's hundreds of millions of people that are coming back time and again because they actually want more. This is not a flash-in-the-pan issue. It's exciting in that it's an environmental issue that people see, and it's connected to their daily lives, and they want to know how to engage. And again, they are engaging. So as part of this initiative, we launched a pledge, and the point here was really to get individuals to start to take accountability for their own behaviors and their own actions. So I think we all know that skipping a straw isn't going to actually solve the global problem, but it does create conscious consumerism. Because if you notice that maybe you can skip a straw, you start to notice all the other plastics that you don't need in your life. And even if you do need plastics in your life, you're going to make sure that maybe you dispose of them properly or start thinking about alternative materials. So it's really about awakening a consciousness and providing an opportunity for people to engage. And it's also about making this connection between my actions as an individual and these huge global problems. Because that's what gets people activated, right? That's what gets people to call their government leaders and say, I want change. And these days, it's what's getting people to actually act with their dollars. Because people want to give money to companies that are doing better. It's an absolute sea change in the way consumers around the world are starting to behave. So this is generally my nice, hopeful pep talk end. But based on the conversations today, I think I'm in a room full of people that share some optimism on this issue, that it really is solvable. Because if an organization like ours, that has a fairly limited footprint, but is also looking inward to address that, we're looking to leverage the strengths we do have to reach as many people as we can to take action. And if every one of us thinks about what can I do as an individual, as a member of my community, as part of my company, we will achieve change. And it's these kind of diverse audiences that are so critical to getting there. So I think we all know what needs to be done, and tomorrow's going to get us even more excited. But I'm here to say that if we actually do work together in this diverse community of solution builders, we will solve this crisis in our lifetime. Thank you.